stuff on the floor. And this couch, Ben, this very couch,
Yeah.
as you can see, we've talked about this already. There's a big rip in it. Gonna be
Really?
gone. Gonna be gone by the next podcast.
Oh yeah.
It's getting picked up on Wednesday.
Yeah. Fuck it.
I'm gonna throw it out. Because it is no good. No bueno. How long have I had this couch? I don't know.
Who knows?
But it's been a while. Once again, let's talk about my voice for just a second.
What's up with your
You
voice?
know, every once in a while, I think about it. I was doing a thing that would drive Betty crazy for a while, and I would talk like this.
It's your job
This is
as
how I would talk.
It's her job as Betty's father.
And I said to Jennifer, my wife, "Oh no! Well, shoot, this is crazy. Something is happening with the podcast, and I don't know what to do about it."
I cannot help you.
It is at least from what I can tell, it started at minute 54 for some reason. And what you
I'm playing.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just playing with the Zoom
So-
things. I don't know.
should I
Is it Zoom
should I
or is
start?
it
It's
Apple?
it's 6:01 right now. I'm gonna start over. Ben.
6:03 actually, but go ahead.
Undo record. Yeah.
I'm just still gonna record. I'll clip it. I don't.
Oh yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah. Ben
Um,
Lawrence.
Paul Goody.
Hey, pal.
I went
Welcome
next
to
door.
another
I went next
podcast.
door and
Yeah.
got some coffee. I don't normally drink coffee this late in the afternoon. It is 4 o'clock, but today merited it. It's just regular black coffee. I don't put anything into my coffee. It's more economical that way, and I actually do prefer it that way.
You know, Ben, we're gonna have a little fun thing since I have my phone on. Right now, you're not going to be able to hear me on the podcast.
Oh,
Folks.
good.
So, Ben, I need you to narrate what I'm doing. I'm going to still talk about what I'm doing, and people might hear me, but go ahead, Ben. Start narrating.
Paul is walking through his house. All I can see is a ceiling fan behind him. It
house.
looks like he's kind of. I think he's just repeating what I'm saying, but
in the kitchen.
he's pointing
I'm in the
out
kitchen
what's
right
happening
now.
in the kitchen.
And then
He's swirling around. It almost
doing-
it looks like our video telephone with all the wide sweeps. Now we've gone to portrait mode. He showed me the floor. Now I'm looking at the pantry, and there's looks like the coffee container. It's a lid locked, vacuum sealed. It's not really vacuum, but it is sealed. Airtight, as they say. He's grabbing his coffee container. It's black with a silver band on it. And now it looks like he might be trying to open it while still holding his phone. All I can see is his head and his ear. I can see Betty briefly appeared in the background, much like Bigfoot. And we're looking at the ground coffee inside of the coffee container. It is a Vecken brand coffee container, or at least airtight container. Maybe you can put other things in it that you don't want to if you don't drink coffee. He's got an electric kettle, a very economical electric kettle, I must add. It is a better way to heat water. And a small, looks like 4-cup French press. French press is actually not my preferred way to drink coffee because I just think it's too silty. I prefer my coffee to be from a filter. And he's got his mug. It is a St. Louis mug, saint.louis.mo. It is some sort of beast from the City Museum, of course. The City Museum is a place where Paul Goody and I spent. As last time I saw Paul Goody in person, we were at the City Museum and we filmed a film called Ben and Paul at the City Museum. And he's going to put flax milk from the brand Good Karma into his coffee. I didn't actually see him make the coffee, so he might just be putting milk into a cup. And oat milk creamer. So you put flax milk and oat milk creamer into. Are you actually making coffee, Paul, or are you just showing me all of your coffee stuff?
I'm just showing you all my coffee stuff, Ben.
So he yelled at so the microphone on the podcast can pick it up. And he's wearing a red shirt. It says Heroic on the front. And he's got a Olipop brand cherry vanilla soda can. I think that's... Now we're just doing show and tell at Paul's kitchen.
Okay, we're back. Hey, everybody. So, Ben,
I
what
feel
I was trying to show you...
out of breath.
and I didn't have. That was great, by the way. Probably the most you've talked uninterrupted by me on the podcast for a while. So I'm happy that was able to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Lawrence, one half of GudeLaurance, oftentimes interrupted by me, and oftentimes not by me saying anything, just me going, Ben, wait a second, Ben, hold on, Ben, that's my impression of myself. But so the point I was going to say was that coffee tin has like 3 different types of coffee in it: a regular dark roast, a eggnog from Aldi, and a gingerbread from Aldi, and I just mixed them all together.
On purpose, or did you do that thing where you didn't quite empty the previous batch of coffee before putting the next batch in?
On purpose. It's mostly dark roast. And I was like, I got these other 2 things. I'm never going to use them. Do I want to just throw them out, or can I just make a... And so this is the idea, is that the plan is I'm never going to buy the same type of coffee in a row. So that coffee tin is going to be the special Paul blend. It's going to taste different all the time.
Does Jennifer have her own coffee?
Jennifer doesn't drink coffee.
Oh, she doesn't drink coffee. Okay.
Neither does Betty. So, have you ever had this Olipop cherry vanilla?
Never even heard of it.
So, Olipop is like one of those good for your gut, probiotic plant fiber soda things.
Okay.
Here's the thing about it. They didn't carry it in Deerbergs for a really long time. That's one of the grocery stores I go to.
Grocery store in Edwardsville.
Yep. Edwardsville, St. Louis area. Deerbergs and Schnucks are the 2 big ones.
Right, Schnucks. I've heard Drunk talk about Schnucks.
Oh yeah, I've heard Drunk talk about Schnucks. Hey, buddy. Have you? No, that's not my drunk impression. That was the idea.
That's my drunk impression.
Yeah.
It's not my drunk impression. It's my drunk impression.
I get the feeling that this guy, my drunk impression. So the basic idea, lollipop cherry vanilla, tastes like cherries.
Yeah.
It is the only cherry soda I've had that doesn't taste like cherry soda, but actually tastes like cherries.
Like you're drinking carbonated cherries.
Yeah, exactly. I also drink an energy drink called Bing, which is made with cherries, but they were out of the cherry one, Bing, B-I-N-G, like the search engine.
Like the search engine.
And like the search engine that we all love. The search engine.
Any bots from Microsoft are listening.
Immediately embraced by every American.
Much like the Zune.
Who doesn't like... Yeah, exactly. I want to go on Bing and find out the best deal on a Zune that I can have shipped to me.
I saw this thing where back when the Windows Phone 7 was released, Paul, maybe you know about this, Microsoft held a funeral for the iPhone, complete with a hearse and a procession outside.
Oh,
and
shoot.
They felt the Windows Phone 7 was going to unseat the iPhone.
I feel like now it can be told, one of the things about the Windows Phone, Ben, is that they launched some stores, some Microsoft stores. I think it was tied to the Windows Phone, I'm not sure, but it was supposed to be like the Apple Store, right? And one of my last jobs in Seattle, before I started doing the low voltage electrical work, I was in a manufacturer thing as a temp. I was in a manufacturer place that was built out to look like a Microsoft store, and I was putting together hardware that would allow the people that were working the Microsoft store to just drop their device into this other device that would then seat it immediately and allow it to connect and charge, I believe, was the idea. But I couldn't tell anybody what I was doing. And it was very much like I wasn't allowed to bring my phone in. And I actually changed they succeeded in something. I didn't use an iPhone. I got a stupid phone without a camera so that I could take calls from Jennifer, because Betty was, you know, a child, and there were times when Jennifer would have to call me about things that were going on with Betty,
Yeah.
and I couldn't be incommunicado. So that was kind of interesting that I didn't have an iPhone for a while. So they succeeded in killing at least one iPhone in that case.
I remember when I got my first iPhone, I think it was a flip phone at that time, and it had the antenna that stuck out, and it died one day, like one night. Like I wanted an iPhone. This is when the iPhone 3G first came out, like the second version of the iPhone, which is called the 3G because that was the network.
Yeah.
And I remember being like so happy that I convinced myself that I had an excuse to now buy an iPhone. I couldn't really afford one. You know, I wanted one, but I couldn't really justify the cost at the time. And then when my phone died and I was going to have to spend money either way, get an iPhone. And I've never gone back.
Here's something. I got Jennifer an iPhone. And I got a different phone for me, which was a phone that I thought was so cool. It was a phone that could play television. It had a TV receiver. So that was my phone. My phone was a phone that had a mini TV in it.
Yeah.
And after seeing Jennifer's iPhone and Jennifer using her iPhone, I took the other one back. I was like, look, I didn't know. I didn't know this thing is going to change everything. And it did. It did, Ben. Changed everything. A lot more than the Segway did, I'll tell you.
I think the Segway suffered from the hype.
Yeah, do you remember? Here's the thing. Do you remember how crazy I was at that time?
You're going to have to narrow that down.
You must have listened to tons of ranting by me about how the Segway wasn't the Segway. That they must have had something else. It couldn't have been that.
Oh, right.
It must have been
because the device,
an electric car,
like Dean Kamen or something. The device was going to like change how we built cities.
And so I thought, well, it's got to be something other than this, right?
Yeah.
And then, in retrospect,
like a maglev train or something.
I guess maybe it was. Well, what I thought it was an electric car, an electric vehicle, and it was.
It's back before they were as ubiquitous as they are now.
Yeah. Well, and I still imagine in my head the thing that I thought was like a supercharged golf cart almost. Like really bare bones, but capable of, and the idea I had in my head, of course wrong, but my idea was that it would go as fast as a car, but be super lightweight, so that you could.
So it'd be dangerous.
Yeah.
But
I told you the crazy. I mean, if anybody's listening who is in charge of saying that I'm mentally stable or whatever, forget what I'm saying here. But you remember me telling me about how I have memories as a kid of being on a farm that had a levitating, thing. Like it was a. I
don't actually remember you saying that.
It was okay. So it was like a sort of like a four-wheeler, sort of like a tractor, right? You sat on it. It had it was sort of like you had sort of a saddle almost.
Okay.
And then coming off of it were these sort of rods, I guess. And then on the end of each rod was this sort of white ceramic disc. And the white ceramic disc, they would emit kind of a sort of a little bit of a hum, but it was sort of a magnet underneath it that repelled the ground, basically. and it would just float, and it would float around, and it was sort of like a boat in a way, because you could turn it, but it would drift. I didn't know what drifting was at the time, but
Yeah.
if that makes sense, you turn it and it would slide, and you'd like make kind of long arcs with it and stuff. And it was used to go through fields and places where there weren't any roads, basically. I would have been probably about 5, I'd say. And then I also remember these big things that were like water towers, but they moved. And I remember the town that I was in flooding and all this. And, what has been suggested to me, which makes sense, is that at that age, the differences between dreaming something and experiencing it in real life are, it's harder to differentiate, basically. So maybe I'm just remembering a thing that I dreamed about.
Yeah.
I
think maybe that's probably one of the reasons why babies cry so much, is they're just terrified of the dreams that they're having.
There is one thing that I do remember that happened. Of course, according to my dad, he doesn't remember this, so who knows? I think I told this on the podcast before, but in case I haven't, I was at a school assembly, and it was about dinosaurs, and there was a guy in the front who was talking about, this is maybe what a dinosaur sounded like. And this kid that was sitting next to me said, hey, you want to come to my house and play? And I was like, okay, so we just walked out of the school.
Yep.
In my defense, this was, 1978, 1979. People didn't care about children as much and what they were doing.
It's amazing we survived into adulthood.
So we were there and we were playing, and then this guy came home and was super mad that we were there. That's what I remember.
The guy, so that this kid's dad? Or an adult guardian?
That's what I think. I assume that's who that was.
Yeah.
And then I remember going home. But I don't remember it that well. And then the other thing was, of course, I was in a class. This is when I was in first grade. And a teacher said that I couldn't leave unless I touched the back of my heels to the back of my head.
What?
And I said, I can't do that. And she goes, I'll show you. And she grabbed me. And I ran away from her and locked myself in the bathroom.
Probably a good call.
And then I got taken back to my house. And then they came back in and the principal said, well, we'll see. And they pointed this woman out to me and said, is she the one that did this to you? Or no, they didn't say, is she the one that did this to you? They said, did she do that to you? And I said, no. And they said, see, he's lying. That was it. I said no because it wasn't the woman. The woman who did that was a different person.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is, again, like I said, in the 70s. It was totally different.
Yeah.
And then I got taken to parochial school, and they could just hit you. Because my parents signed a waiver that said, yeah,
okay to hit.
Yeah. Okay to hit him. And so I was, and still hate it. Still hate it to this day.
Probably still do it to this day in parochial schools.
Yeah. Oh, and that was something else. I was, I had a problem with one of the teachers in 5th grade. And my mom recently said to me, oh, yeah, this guy wanted to know how you're doing. I'm like, did he? Did he really want to know how I was doing? I'm not great. Still processing some things that happened to me in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Other than that, blah, blah, blah. So,
I was thinking about something recently. It dawned on me that so there are 2 big events that sort of like inform a generation when it comes to music. Like, where were you when you heard John Lennon was shot? Where were you when you heard that Kurt Cobain had died? And I only realized, I don't know why I didn't even think of this, only 14 years separate those 2 things.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems like it'd be longer, doesn't it?
It does seem like it should be like 30 years, but yeah, it's John Lennon was killed in
14 years.
John Lennon died in 1980, Kurt Cobain died in 1994.
Wow, that is crazy. I know where I was both times, actually. I think I mentioned this to you before. The John Lennon one, I was in Dorsey, Illinois. Um, I heard about it on the news, and I asked my dad, "Who is that guy?" And my dad's reply was, "Some musician." And so for the longest time, I was like, I no, I didn't even know that John Lennon was shot until I realized, oh, that's the guy. That's the guy that was on the news.
Yeah.
That's the guy that my dad said something that was John Lennon. So I found about John Lennon afterwards.
My mom was a big Beatles fan, so when the still is actually. But so
Yeah.
when that news broke, it definitely would have been news in my house, but I was 4, so I don't really remember it being a thing when John Lennon when the news broke that John Lennon had died. I definitely know where I was when Kurt Cobain when news got out because my friend Eric Kasky called me up
Mm.
and he's like they found a body in Kurt Cobain's house and they think it might be Kurt.
So the story about this, and I might have told this on the podcast as well, but I need to. So I was a big Joel Hodgkins fan. Joel Hodgkins, is that
Hod
right? Joel, Hod-
Joel
Hod-
Hodgson.
Hodgson. Joel Hodgson.
Hodgson.
Sorry, Joel, if you're listening. So I was a big fan of his.
Yeah, MST Sarcasm.
And we had to do something for one of our acting classes. We had to do a solo performance, and so I put together my own version of a stand-up thing with a lot of props. I did a prop comedy heavy thing, and one of the things that I said was uh, we're going to talk about different methods of primate locomotion, and one of it was knuckle walking. And I said examples of knuckle walking include the whatever ape that I was talking about, and Nirvana's Kurt Cobain. So that was the first. That was the first performance of it. And then the idea is that we were going to get notes and we would come back and do it again. Over that weekend, Kurt Cobain shot himself.
Jeez.
And we were supposed to do the exact same thing, just with changes, that we're told. I said, okay, examples of knuckle walking are the whatever lowland gorilla or whatever it was I said, and then I paused because everybody remembered it.
Yeah.
Because they're like ooh boo or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, now I'm not supposed to alter this, but this is where I would say Nirvana's Kurt Cobain, and then over the weekend he shot himself. I don't know how he found out, but I am sorry. So.
And how did the class react to that?
Boos and groans again, but too soon. And then I said examples of knuckle walking include the whatever gorilla and Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
And then I got laughs and all that. So
it was Speaker of the House at the time, I believe.
Unpopular.
Yeah.
With many students. The other thing, of course, is that I didn't really do stand-up again until Slap That Ass.
At Annex?
At Annex.
Wow.
And when I was on Low Work, they didn't know how to explain what it was that you and I did. So they just had me say that I do stand-up comedy.
Ha! Yeah.
And so, on paper, I am a stand-up. If you search me, and you go off of what was on Low Work, and you find the clip of me doing Slap That Ass, yeah, I am a stand-up. I've always wanted to do stand-up. I just haven't. Because I don't like bars, mostly.
Yeah, it's where you gotta do the miles.
Yeah,
Bars and
especially
clubs.
in the 80s and 90s, that's where most stand up was.
Yeah.
The idea that you could do stand up at a theater, you know, n not as not as often
There was
were
a
that to
there was
happen.
a time, you probably remember this, where like every time Brett booked a stand up for Spin the Bottle, they bombed.
Oh,
And
we talked about this.
yeah, it's a, a either Spin the Bottle audiences were just naturally hostile towards stand ups, or we just brought in bad stand ups.
The stand-ups that Brett had um weren't spin the bottle material.
Yeah.
Their acts were misogynistic and problems until the the popular one that I remember first, Ink. No, the until Emmett Montgomery.
Yeah.
Emmett, everyone loved Emmett, and it even Weird and Awesome became its own show, and it was great. Um, and Emmett was able to bring in the right comedians that would do well
Yeah.
for an annex audience.
There were some, I mean, it wasn't it they weren't always hits, right? There were a couple of
Mhm.
Weird and Awesomes I remember where the stand up just was playing to the wrong room.
Mhm.
And it actually did get uncomfortable. I remember one guy, like, I didn't I didn't like go up to Emmett afterwards and said, "You can't book this guy here again." But like Emmett would do that thing where, like, after the show, a bunch of us would just hang out here in the theater and just chat. And Emmett would come up and ask, like, what was your favorite bit? What was your favorite part of the
Mhm.
show? And actually said it wasn't at this time. It wasn't the stand up because he said this and this. Like, he insulted the Alex, the tech, at one
Oh
point, and I'm like,
no.
don't insult the tech crew, dude. That is not a way to ingratiate yourself into a community.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't ever remember. I mean, honestly, I don't remember who that was. I think that was the only time he played Weird and Awesome. But yeah,
Was
it's
he was he an older guy?
no, I don't. I can't remember any details about who it
The only
was.
reason I ask is that was one of the things I did notice is that there seemed to be a divide. That the older it's not always the case. Just the older the comic was, the more
Yeah, you
in
can't
the
you can't say anything anymore without getting canceled.
well,
Oh, they didn't
there's a
use
thing, and
canceled
I
back then.
think you probably heard the same thing. I don't know. For improv classes, there was a time when people would say, "Don't censor yourself. Just say whatever because it doesn't matter. What's funny is what matters, or
That's
whatever."
definitely
I,
that mindset has
it,
definitely changed.
and really, I mean, the "don't censor yourself." It still makes sense, but I like what people say now, which is be at the top of your intelligence, rather than "don't censor yourself," meaning that you want to believe that the audience is going to get what it is that you say,
Yeah.
right? um so you be as smart as you can be and hope that the audience will come along with you, right? Different than "don't censor yourself." Don't censor yourself meaning, well, don't say anything that someone might find offensive. um is not the same rule either, but it's just, I mean, the way I would say it is this: you better be funny. If you're gonna do it, you better be funny for everyone in the room. Meaning that, and people will find this unfair, but it is absolutely true. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Jennifer called me personally out on this. Um, and not recently enough that it still gives me pause when I'm about to say this. Um, if you look like someone who would say something that you're saying and mean it, and you're saying it as a joke because obviously you don't think that way, you don't have to make that joke because the people that are listening to you, one, maybe don't know you as well as you think they do, and they might just think that you mean it. And then two, even if they do know that you don't mean it, they've heard that enough, they don't need to do it again. So the idea being, there was so Jennifer was talking about, um, there was a study that had ignored women, a study about autoimmune diseases that ignored women. It wasn't studying that. It was a genetic study, wasn't studying women. And they finally studied women, and the scientists who were studying the women found that um, by studying the genes, they understood now how this was made. And I said, it's the woman's fault. Um, and I meant to say that as the scientist. That's how they gave their findings.
Yeah.
That's what they, that was their, and the joke was that even now, even after they, actually do use women's genetics in it, misogyny still exists, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But for her, I just made a stupid joke about misogynistic. Oh, I made a stupid misogynistic joke. And the fact that I was talking like one of the scientists was not apparent.
Yeah.
And even if it were, it didn't matter, right? And I mean, that's recently.
Yeah.
There are rules for comedy that, get made, etc. But I think that rule is one that should be thought of, which is basically, if you aren't a member of a community and you want to do a joke geared towards that, in this case, geared towards something that is against that community. So in this case, make a misogynistic joke to a woman, you cannot do that, and everything will be fine.
Yeah. But
And this guy, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just say
Okay.
that I mean that there's a line, and we've talked about this before, between saying the bad thing versus commenting on the bad thing by saying the bad thing. And that's
And this
you
is,
will
this is
get
where,
it wrong more often than not. And by
and
not
this is
you,
where,
Paul Goody, but you, like, people doing
yeah.
it.
And this is where I'm saying you better be funny.
Yeah.
If you are commenting on the bad thing by saying the bad thing, I'm not saying, you have to get, and this is, people say you can't say anything anymore. I'm not saying that you need to get up there and go, okay, in this next bit, I am going to be putting on the character of so and so to talk about it. I mean, it might actually be funny if you belabor it that much, but the fact is, you need to be ready. If your joke, if you don't craft it in such a way that people get what you're trying to do,
Right.
it's on you. And if you're like, I was just kidding, which is what happens right now. I was just kidding. I was making a joke.
I'm sorry you didn't understand my joke.
Exactly. There are people who don't tell jokes who then say that they were kidding because they've seen that happen enough that they think, oh, I can probably get away with this. I was talking about, abusive people are like this. Things are jokes, right? Oh, this is a joke. Oh, I'm making a joke, until they don't have to joke anymore because now they have the power in a relationship, and then they just start being mean to you.
Yeah.
This is not to call anybody out, but I have in my life known. I'll say this. They don't listen to this podcast. I have a relative. I won't go any further than that, but who liked this guy because he was funny until she got into a long-term relationship with him, and that funniness got turned on her, and just every day she was the Alex of that stand-up comic. You know,
But
the idea
Alex.
that Alex, you were talking about how the stand-up comic made fun of Alex,
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
tech person. It's you know, so she's always around in that relationship, and so he's always, you know, making fun of her,
Yeah.
and that's what her life is now. This funny guy who she liked uh, is constantly using her as the butt of his jokes.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely, it's not a fine line. It's a large, stark, chasm between making fun of, being abusive towards, being mean to, and lovingly teasing.
Yeah, and sometimes, especially like for me, it's hard for me to say sometimes when someone is teasing me and it hurts a little bit too much. It's hard for me to tell people,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like, hey, that's not cool. Please don't. I was in a situation recently where someone was actually, again, not going to go into details, but someone was actually like hostile towards me, and I was like, you know, we can't do this. I can't talk to you if you're going to behave this way. And they didn't stop. And so
From
that was
their
really crazy.
from their point of view, did they just think they were just goofing around?
No, no, they were mad.
Oh,
They were
okay.
like actually mad. Uh, from their point of view, the conversation had gotten to a place where that was excusable because that's that's how this person argues.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you wanted to get into an argument, now we're in an argument. And what I'm saying is, it's no one. You know, it was not. It was not a friend situation. It was not a relative situation. It was a a, a community situation, like two people talking to one another in a way. I'm sure that you felt this way before, when you're like, how did this start happening? Okay,
I often find myself in that situation.
now I'm actually mad at the way that you're treating me.
Yeah.
And this is no longer about the issue we were talking about. Now this is about you as a person. You know, it's weird for
In
me.
all, a lot, I do find myself in those types of situations, and I often have to remind myself that this is actually a comment more on that person than it is on me, right? And
Yeah.
so if anybody happens to like see this sort of exchange, I'm not the one that people are mad at, right? In fact, if what I'm hearing you say is correct, more people, like, the judgment is being put on the person whose anger is getting spit onto you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, here's the thing, right? They had their way of talking, right? Which was, no, this is how it's going to be, you know, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Jennifer always says, if I say blah 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 blah, am I just tired of talking? Have I also given up? And no,
Yada
the
yada
reason I said blah blah
yada.
blah 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 in that situation is that if I had gone on, it would have been more apparent
Yeah.
maybe who I was talking, or in the
Form of
situation, so I
self
stopped.
censorship.
Right. And so, and when I was talking, all I was saying is, you know, we have to stop this conversation. I can't speak when the conversation gets to this point. We have to stop. I need to take a break. If you keep yelling at me, I'm going to have to hang up. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was over the phone.
Hence the hanging
Also,
up
yeah.
portion.
Here's the thing: you rob the bank, but you do it over the phone. Nobody gets hurt.
There's a
The idea. Do you remember that at all? It was an idea for a sketch that we ended up not doing, which was a guy goes back in time and decides that he's going to do. He's going to be the first person that like he wants to invent the internet so that he can hack a bank, and he's trying to explain it. So, all right, so all the money is just ones and zeros in a computer. Okay, what's a computer? Okay, I went back too far. Okay, so first, but then in the end, it's you just rob the bank over the phone. Nobody gets hurt. Well, what about the person you call? Well, you're not calling a person. It went on like that for a little bit, and then in the end, uh, I I believe I think one of the reasons we didn't do is that there wasn't really an ending. I think the ending that we came up with, and it also was too much of a sketch, more of a sketch than what we normally did.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was like the guy ends up getting shot or whatever, and then the person he was talking to uses the thing, and somebody else later on gets a call, and they're like, "Hello? Okay, 1 second," and they take a bunch of money out of a safe and put in a bag, and they're like, "Okay, now what? Hello? Hello?" So the person gets like all the way to getting the money in the bag, but they're still over the phone, so
Right.
they can't because they
There's
don't understand it.
I I don't know if you heard this story recently. It came out. I don't remember what company it was, but somebody used, I think it was an AI voice generator to
Oh no.
mimic the CFO of a company and was able to steal something like $25 million from, like, during a conference call with, whoever was responsible for, controlling the money, right? And I don't know if
Wow.
this
Yeah.
person's been caught. So yeah, but this person, whoever the thief in this scenario,
Yeah.
was able to get this company to wire so many millions of dollars to like some sort of account controlled by whoever was pretending to be somebody important that the other people would listen to.
I mean, we're gonna be in a place where actually physically being somewhere is going to be really important again.
Yeah,
I feel like.
you
Um,
can't even trust the video anymore.
I was thinking about this. I think you and I talked about this already, but just in case, AI, right? They're like AI being used for robocalls,
Right.
or AI being used for um, those IRS or those yeah, those fake IRS calls where you're going to be you're going to go to the police station if you don't, do this, whatever. Um, I'm of a very strange opinion that people that I talk to about this don't believe it. Um, I don't think it's right, and I think it might have to do with that whole glitch in the matrix thing, right? But for me, if an AI generated voice is indistinguishable from a human voice, it doesn't make me more likely to do what they want. It just puts them on the same level. Like somebody cold calling me, asking me to give them my computer password, and an AI trying to do it, it's going to be the same. Like if Jennifer were to call me and say, "Paul, I don't have time to explain. I need $8,000
Yeah.
wired to me." Um, she will tell you, trying to get me to wire her $8,000, it would be nearly impossible and very annoying.
That is happening, though. I mean, that's one of the things that I hear is what one way that scammers target the elderly is they will call and pretend to be a younger relative, like a grandson or a granddaughter,
Yep.
in need of help. And because the elderly person either can't recognize the actual voice of the phone or they've been able to synthesize it somehow, uh, they they're able to scam all this money off of them.
Yep.
And I'm
I
with you. I mean, like if somebody in my life calls me up and uncharacteristically asks for a whole crap ton of money, yeah, I'm gonna be skeptical.
yeah.
Especially
And
if it's you, Paul
here's
Goody.
here's the thing. I'm not going to be skeptical as much as I'm just going to be unhelpful, like I would be to the real person.
I'm gonna
Like if
sometime this week. I'm actually gonna
if
call you and ask you to wire me $8,000.
I'd be like, oh, see, oh God, now you've got me thinking. Because if it's you, Ben, if it's you, and they've got, well, this is the thing, is I would say this, Ben, we've talked about this on the podcast. You 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 have way too many hours of your voice for me to trust you over the phone.
Right.
We need to at least we need to at least do FaceTime, and then even then there are going to be some other hurdles that you're going to have to jump through.
Yeah.
Um, it's like for instance, here's the thing, right? Um, when people would call and they'd be using a voice, because this has been done before, right? People have basically a soundboard, and they'll call. And what Jennifer and I used to do is we used to say, okay, I need you to say the word shamrock to me, and they would go, haha, why? I'd say, no, I just need you to say the word shamrock.
Yeah.
I'm a real person. Okay. I just need you to say the word shamrock back to me. But now with AI, it's going to be able to do that. And what we're going to have to do is something else. And luckily, you and I grew up around the world of phone pranks. And so if someone calls and says, hey, this is the IRS, I'm going to say, why did you steal my car? Because that's not something you would normally ask an IRS person. And then they'd say, "Oh, I didn't steal your car." And I would say, "Okay, well then where is it?" Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You have to have, or tell me where to go uh, to take care of this in person. I am not going to take care of this over. That's really all you need to do. I'm not going to take care of this over the phone.
Yeah. Because you can no longer trust what you're hearing, and now you can no longer trust what you're seeing.
Can I tell you what gets me a little bit more scared than the IRS calls and everything?
What's that?
Swatting.
Swatting. You think somebody's
AI
gonna swat?
swatting.
You think? Yeah. I don't know. I've never heard of
Somebody
AI
uses,
swatting before, but
I mean,
swatting is a
it
thing.
hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
but it will now that I've said it. Yeah, somebody calls up and it's a 20, and it sounds right and everything, but the location isn't real, the girlfriend isn't real. None of it's all generated.
Yep.
I've said this before, I'll say it again, we are at the cusp of the reality war, because people are going to be able to manufacture evidence of things, and the truth won't matter anymore,
Yeah.
because there will be many versions of it, all with all physical. And something. This is the thing that when I talk about this, Ben, people don't like it because it sounds too crazy, but it's absolutely true. Everything that you can think of, right? All of the things that you've experienced are done. They're over. They're no longer there. The place where they exist is in your head as memories, and as whatever physical evidence, other people's heads as memories, and whatever physical evidence they've left behind. And as soon as you can manufacture that physical evidence and change the people's memories, reality becomes malleable. And I'm already well suited to live in that world, because
You're
I do not trust my memory,
right.
and I lose things all the time. So I never have the physical evidence I need. But for a lot of people, I mean, they're gonna go nuts. There's no way that they're going to be able to deal with it because they're going to be unmoored, ungrounded from what they're used to. And then there's going to be this dog.
Edward.
His name is Edward, and he's so cute.
I don't know. Can I trust that he's real?
Nope. But he's still fuzzy, even if he isn't real, and you can still pet him. And that's the thing. I've been having dreams jumping on a trampoline. I don't remember the rest of it. The lyrics for a song. But anyway, I last night I had dreams that were very real. Right?
Yeah.
Dreams that I'm sure that you've had them before. Dreams where you're like, huh, that's weird. I don't remember doing this. One of them, I peed in the desk drawer of a desk that did not belong to me. And I was like, why did I do that? That is the stupidest. Everybody, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have used the bathroom, but I peed in this drawer. So that was weird. But I was convinced that it was real until I woke up.
Yeah, and then you had to go to the bathroom.
And then I was like, whoo! I was like, great. Yeah, of course I did. But I was like, I'm glad that didn't happen. And then I went back to sleep. And when I went back to sleep, I was in a video game. I was in a video game. And I'm like, this is amazing. I was in a VR headset type thing.
Right.
And I'm like, this is more real than I've seen in a long time. But I was dreaming, obviously. And I saw a doorway. I was like, oh, I've never been this way before. I'm going to go this way. And all of a sudden I was, facing skeletons. I'm like, oh, I don't want to fight the skeletons. I'm going to go in this room. And in the room were a whole bunch of scientists in lab coats and stuff. And I had a halberd, right? A long, like, axe-like thing on a pole.
Okay.
And I just started killing the scientists.
Just for reasons?
And yeah, just because I'm like, well, this is a video game. I might as well kill these scientists. And they were like, what are you doing? No, stop, etc. And I realized in my dream that, oh, I was out of the VR thing now. The scientists were the ones that had me in the VR thing. And I thought I just came into this room. But what I really did was wake up from the dream and just starting attacking people. And then I was like, but where did I get the halberd from? And then I woke up.
Yeah.
Again, one of those weird things of different layers of reality. Again, this is what we're eventually going to be dealing with. We are lucky where we're at right now. You and I were luckier when we were kids because there really was only one kind of reality that we were in.
Right.
You know, and there wasn't the TV and the overlay of the internet and all that kind of stuff. But now,
it's all a matter of adapting. I mean, I think we just have to learn to identify what is real and what isn't, and maybe some people will be more attuned to that and than others, and you just have to
we're all
question everything.
We're all going to be slightly delusional, and we're gonna get to choose which reality we decide we want to interact with.
You take the red pill or the blue pill.
Have I told you already? I think you know this. I think we talked about it because we didn't see The Matrix together. That it had come out before we had met.
Yeah.
But my instant thing when you said you take the blue pill or the red pill, my instant thing was both at once.
What do you think would happen if at that point you took both pills at once?
I feel like it would be sort of like an out-of-body experience. Like I would be able to see myself in the Matrix. Like I wouldn't have to jack into the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
I would be in the Matrix still, but I would also experience the outside world. I would be in two different bodies. at the same time.
And it would tear you apart.
Oh, it hasn't done so far, Ben. I've been working just fine. No, yeah, probably. That's right. We go crazy.
Yeah.
Even more so. People talk about the looking at the code, and I look at the code. When I look at the code, I see this woman, whatever his name is, Joey Pants. His little speech about how Cypher is his character's name.
Yeah.
It,
Joe Pantoliano.
Yeah, that's right. His statement about how he actually sees the pictures that the data makes when he looks at the glowing green thing. I think that we as actor types sort of have that magic when we're watching someone who is acting. We can tell, we see the actor behind the performance, I guess is what I'm saying. We have that little vision where we can sort of tell the choices that they're making, etc.
Yeah.
We can suspend disbelief and see that character, but we can also see the actor behind the character deciding to do certain things, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you something else as someone who has done color correction before and all that. The dress, is it white and gold or blue and black or whatever it was?
Yeah.
My feeling about it, and I'll explain why in just a second, but my feeling about it is that people who have dealt with photography or video in any way see the color, whatever color it is, as the color that the object would look like in real life under proper lighting.
Yeah.
So the example is the tennis shoe that, what color is this? Is it gray and green or is it white and pink? Do you remember that one?
I don't, but like there were a few that came out sort of like in quick succession where the what color is this became a bit of a fad.
So the guy who solved this for me, he was a photographer. Did a lot of other stuff, but he was mainly a photographer in this instance.
Yeah.
Who was like, well, it's white and pink, and he just set the white balance on the photograph correctly.
Yeah.
And the hypothesis I came out of, based on that, is that if you are used to dealing with photos or video that need to be color corrected, you see the color, you look at that image and you see the color of so when it says what color is this object, you're looking at it and determining what color the object should be.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that see it and say the thing that is wrong, that's the way I'm going to say it.
Well,
because
I mean,
they're seeing the color on the screen and telling you what those pixel colors are.
Yeah, but also what color it should be is also very contextual. Like how does it fit within the world that you're putting it in, right? When I look at that dress, I'm like, it's, it is whatever color you see because that's what color you see. But you're correct in that it needs to be, like when you see it in person in proper lighting, that's what color it is. Right. This picture can be, what was interesting about the picture is like it's the same, the same pixels. So many people saw different colors because they interpreted those different ways. It also goes back to like, is the color blue that I see the same color blue that you see?
Right. And which way does the ballerina leg rotate? And you can switch it.
You can.
Right?
You just think about it going one way.
And the switching of it, I think, is the same thing as finding the true color of the object. There is a second screen, if you will, in our heads that we use to visualize stuff. The people who can't visualize things, you've heard that before, right? They'll show you. They'll say, "Think of an apple." Now, what do you see? What do you see in your head? And people are like, "What are you talking about? I don't
Right.
see anything." Okay, so I don't know if they really don't see anything, or if what they think they're seeing, or what they think they should be seeing, is, if this makes sense, an image in screen one.
Yeah.
Screen one is, the thing I'm looking around, I'm seeing this filing cabinet, etc.
Your
But
visual
there
field.
is a screen two, that's what I call it anyway, where I can see that apple, but it's not coming into my head like light coming
Right.
in from somewhere, but I can still see it.
It's what some people might
But it's-
interpret as imagination.
But it's not right, exactly. But it's not really seeing in the way that I think these other people are expecting to.
Right.
But it is possible that there are people who don't have that second screen, if that makes sense.
Brains are strange, and everyone
again,
is different.
How would I know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But anyway. That was when I first heard about that phenomenon. That's what I thought. I thought that maybe they're thinking that they should be able to hallucinate the thing, like right in front of them, which is not what's happening.
No. You're not a
In
Magritte
my-
painting. Your face.
Everybody.
Hey,
Oh, now he's back.
I froze for a bit. I said you're not a Magritte painting with the apple right in front of your face, and
Exactly.
but now look, it's time. It's the hour is up, Paul Goody.
Oh, Ben, it is time to go. Huh, interesting. Ben froze for a second. Now he came up and says the hour's off.
Now
And he looks like he's gonna ask me for
Can you wire me $8K?
It's just because Ben was glitchy.
My name is
8K,
Ben,
Ben
and that
never
is
says
my
8K.
story. Cool.
All right, folks. Well, I'll tell you what. It was great hanging out with you, Ben, and it was great hanging out with you, the people. And now Ben and I are going to go off and discuss the things that you would be able to hear about if you joined our Patreon, which we don't have.
And we will never have.
That's right. It's the after show.
It's a fake Patreon.
Unless there is a big problem happening with me. I think you're way behind me now, Ben.
We'll
after you froze.
Well, we'll find out. In that case, I'll just tell you, Paul, to keep it wrong, and I'll talk to you in just a little bit.
Hey, Ben, keep it wrong. I will